Hello everybody and welcome back to another tutorial by NovaPans Handpans. Today we are covering pattern number 18. In our previous pattern we played this. And today I want to teach you this slight evolution of the previous pattern. And all we're doing essentially is we're playing exactly the same pattern, but we're ghosting some of the notes in the final bar. And the effect of that, what that means firstly, ghosting a note essentially is playing the note, but playing it ever so softly or quietly that it almost isn't there. In a way, you are aiming not to hear it. So it's like a ghost attempt of playing a note, or a fake or false faux note, you could say. And we're applying that specifically to the last set of 8 semiquavers. Not all of them, just the last 2 of the 3rd beat and the last 3 of the 4th beat. Now to play that slowly would be something like this. Oh, the second bar this is. You shouldn't be able to hear it. When I play it fast, it sounds much more effective. So you almost can't hear, I realise the note that I'm ghosting is the right hand, which is the 3rd note. Note 3. So the way we notate ghost notes is we put a little bracket or parentheses around that note. I really need to hear that. Yeah, so it starts on after the 3rd beat. We've got the bracket there. So the point of that, I mean, I'm not thinking these things when I perform, but when I do apply some of these techniques, also without knowing, they just come naturally, but if you apply them yourselves, ghosting will create this sense of notes are missing in a way from the expected rhythm. For example, all of the previous rhythms have been full 4 sets, or full sets of semi-quavers, quarter beat notes. And so it creates a sense of anticipation that you're going to be playing semi-quaver throughout the piece, so that when you actually do miss a note by ghosting it, it creates this unexpected experience. And it creates an emphasis on the 5th note, this one, which in a way is used throughout this piece. And draws light to it for perhaps the most part of this whole song. So it gives a little bit of a spotlight for this note, note 5. And I'll allow you to be the judge of that comparison. So here it is without the ghost notes. So that's me playing every note for what it is, how it was written before, and then this is me ghosting. You almost can't hear the difference, but I promise that when you do speed it up and you really emphasize some of the dynamic changes, i.e. what's loud, what's quiet, it does make a difference. So the way you play a ghost note is you go as if you were to play it usually, but you almost feign the not the attack, but the note. So my hand is still doing the rhythm naturally, habitually, but it's more like a touch as opposed to a strike. So don't think too much of the ghost note as a means to, you're trying to hit it but not make a sound. Think of it more as your hand is moving, but you're not too worried about striking the note. In fact, it's supposed to be feigned, so you might as well feign the action. In other words, don't think about it. Slowly, that would be. And if it helps you, actually, you can even move the thumb or whichever note you're using for the note you need to ghost away from the active point, which creates a sound, to more of the percussive section. That's essentially how I do it most of the time, because it's enough. It's one thing to silence that hand, but it's another to move it out of the activation zone of creating that note. So you really, in a way, guarantee the ghosting. Again, slowly. That's a little better, isn't it, visually? And orally, it does sound. Yeah. So that's probably easier for everyone, more effective. Of course, you don't want to be moving your hand of the ghost note too far away, because you might want to be playing that note or another note. But essentially it comes down to your own ergonomics and your own practice. And I'll teach you those extra little melodic aspects in the next pattern. But essentially what we've deduced, what we've resolved here is producing a ghost note does not necessarily mean having to make an exceptional effort to play more quiet than usual. You can just ever so subtly move that hand out of the note zone and use that. Of course, if you hit that percussive section of the handpan too loud, you're going to hear a slap, and that kind of defeats the whole object of trying to ghost. You're not just trying to ghost that note, but you're trying to ghost that rhythm, anything sounding. Because if you do sound those notes that are ghosted, you kind of defeat the objective of emphasizing putting note 5 in the spotlight. So I've given you a full analysis of ghosting here. And which I think is useful, because you can probably apply this, you can apply this same ghosting effect to any sort of playing. So if you remember from our previous tutorials, we were doing 2 and 5 followed by semiquavers, 3 and 5 followed by semiquavers, 4 and 5, 3 and 5. Now, agreeably, that has an effect in itself, all of the notes being played. But what if you were to start ghosting the notes after? So, all of a sudden, 5 is in the spotlight. So you might be wondering, and that's an effect in itself, so that's definitely something, and a lot of handpan players use that because it creates this kind of, excuse me, people wonder, how are you able to play those notes on the offhand, because you're playing basically offbeat rhythms when you ghost notes on the main beat. How are they able to do that? And it's because they're still in a way playing the on beat with the right hand, or their strong hand, but it's being ghosted. So this is kind of like not a cheat approach, but it's an actual technique. And And it's beautiful to put 5 in the spotlight. So that is pattern 18. I'm going to develop it further. And yeah, if you've got any questions, let me know. See you there. Bye-bye.